Hello, everybody. I'm Sohavi Arya. Welcome to the Makers Bar podcast. Makers Bar is on a mission to create and raise 1 million leaders worldwide. Today, we have with us Kathan Desai, founder of BugBase. Hi, Kathan. How are you doing?
All good, Savi. Thank you for having me here to the Makers Bar podcast. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for the startup ecosystem and gathering all the knowledge from all the startup leaders and following up, spreading it across to young founders who are trying to build something in this industry. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, Kathan, tell us something about yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Kathan, founder of BugBase. I am currently handling operations for BugBase, but I can tell you more about what we do at BugBase, wherein we are an offensive security startup building products for bug bounty programs, pen testing, and automating red teaming. You can find out more about us on bugbase.in. But we are working across geographies, starting from India, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and in the US, when we help companies to engage with security researchers via the bug bounty platform, while we have our own automated pen testing and red teaming solutions to be launched soon.
So, can you help us with these words? What is bug bounty? What is red teaming? I saw these words on your LinkedIn as well. Also, congratulations. I believe you completed 3 years yesterday.
Correct. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
that.
congrats. Yeah.
It's a quick journey. Never, I just realized yesterday itself that we had a third birthday. But while you're building a startup, the time flows very quickly. And definitely, let me help you understand what is a bug bounty program. Right. Firstly, you might have heard about Google paying out to this particular girl for finding a vulnerability, paying out $1 million for finding a vulnerability in their application. Right. So
Yeah.
you finding vulnerability, reporting it to a company, and the company giving out a reward to you is a bug bounty, right? So sort of getting rewards for finding a vulnerability, which is a security flaw in a particular organization, is a bug bounty. Right? So a bug bounty program is sort of an initiative started by a particular company through which they channelize all such activities, right? Wherein they have a policy which mentions all the rules and regulations, how should a researcher engage to with a particular program with a particular company, what all vulnerabilities they can find, and all those things, right? And these initiatives generally, companies like Google, Facebook, Meta, large companies would have a in-house team to handle it, right? But you can realize that not every company would have a larger team size who can handle the bug bounty program for them, right? If you consider simple as like something like an email, right? You can, if you find a vulnerability, there would be a million of people like you who can write an email to a particular CTO or a CXO. That sort of starts becoming a chaos rather than a good initiative for the company, right? So that's where we come in. We streamline the entire flow. We have a portal for the hackers. They can log in, report the vulnerabilities to, let's say, Hike. If you find a vulnerability in Hike, you can report it to Hike via the BugBase platform. Hike, as an organization, also has a portal on BugBase through which they are, sort of resolving all the valid vulnerabilities that have been identified. So we help them in curating the correct set of researchers, filtering out the vulnerabilities, paying out to the researchers in time, sort of everything, streamlining that for them. While red teaming is a fairly broad concept wherein you allow everything and anything which can lead to a data breach. So the main point over there in red teaming is to get access to the data of the company. Right? It could be via physical access to their offices. You going into their office, breaking into their physical systems, and then trying to find a data. Or it could also be sending out phishing emails to certain employees of the company and trying to get access to the local infrastructure. Right. The main goal is different over here, and it's fairly broad and open scope rather than a bug bounty when compared to a bug bounty.
So, just for my understanding, I'm repeating.
Sure.
Um, so, bug bounty is to find out if there are any breaches in security, and the other one is for data. Red teaming is for data
So everything sort of leads to data, right? But bug bounty is on the application, finding vulnerabilities in the application, primarily on
in
the
the coding.
extra. in the application you don't actually have the access to the code base, but there are independent researchers who can find vulnerabilities in the application, how the workflow of that application is going on, right? And then you find a
Okay.
vulnerability in that. So just for example, if you are using Zomato, right, and you realize that you can change the value of your Zomato bill from 100 rupees to 0 rupees or 1 rupee, right? So that's a parameter tampering, right? That such changes can lead to a vulnerability and can be reported to Zomato, and that's where a bug bounty helps in, right? In a red teaming, so bug bounty is open to everybody. For they can find a vulnerability, they can report it to a company. Company rewards those researchers, so it's like a pay per bug kind of an initiative, right? Till now, red teaming was fairly service oriented, wherein companies used to deploy their man force. Let's say EY, Deloitte, or any big four companies would get in their 10, 15 folks, and they'll perform red teaming, wherein they'll do anything and everything to get the data out of that particular company. It also sometimes includes, as I mentioned, physical security. It includes doing pen testing, doing external assessment of their infrastructure applications, so that they can try to you know cross all the measures that a company has set in. There are multiple defenses a company would set in, both in physically as well as in cyber security. The goal for that particular red teaming activity is to bypass all those measures that a company has set up and get the data out of it, right? Any channels are generally open, but sometimes companies are a bit stuck. They don't want to allow physical security. All those things can happen, and that's where we are trying to build a automated tool which would replace all those 10, 15 engineers and keep on doing automated red teaming. Definitely it would not include a physical red teaming, but anything and everything that can be done over the internet.
So I'm assuming bug bounty comes from the term bounty hunter, and like that's the
Sort
that's
of
the
correct.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so bounty
Okay.
hunter is somebody who is finding vulnerability and then reporting it to the company. So yeah. Bug bounty, you can understand, right? You all in the earlier
Yeah,
days,
yeah, I understood.
was
Interesting terminology.
somebody, if somebody is a thief, right? Police will put a bounty on them. If you find the person, you get rewards. Similarly, it's there on the cybersecurity angle. If you find a vulnerability in our application, we'll reward you. Simple.
Interesting. So, what is your background? How and why did you get interested in something like this?
So, me and my co-founders, all of us were security engineers. Not just, if not security engineers, we were security enthusiasts. We used to, find vulnerabilities by ourselves in such companies. Right. One day, couple of years back, I found a way through which I can bypass a ticketing system and get myself some free tickets to a movie show, right? All those things also we have done in our past, right? So but then we realized that because we are ethical hackers, we need to report it to the company. While we tried reporting it to the company as well, they might have not accepted that fact that such people are sending us the emails. What's the chance that particular vulnerability is actually true or not, right? And they simply ignore us, right? While India has like 40% of all the ethical hacker crowd across the globe, so around 1 million people, out of that 40% would be in from India itself, active ethical hackers, right? So India has such large skill set, companies are not utilizing it, and that's where we started in 2021 with the Bug Bounty platform. It's growing well. We have around 30-35 companies working with us, from government to enterprise, wherein they are engaging with the researchers, and researchers are submitting vulnerabilities now on a streamlined way with them.
So, it's been 3 years of this journey. Tell us what was the most significant challenge that you faced in the initial stages of your business, and how did you overcome it?
Sure. So when we started, we were in our first semester of our college, right? Now, in
Are
2021
you
was a
have you not graduated?
we dropped out. So
Okay.
that's a different story. Probably I'll come to in a couple of while. But the main issue was, in the first year of the building BugBase itself. Definitely for us, it used to be, we used to participated in a lot of hackathons. We used to build a lot of products, and similarly, BugBase was one of our projects which we went ahead with. Right, we had our core team, four of us, started to connect on Discord every day, because at that time 2021 was COVID era, right? We were COVID batch. So all of us were home, and that's how we started. But the issue started to come in when the college called us back to the campus, right? And that was like end of 2021. All of us sort of started to get distracted. All of those things keep on happening. We did not have any sales experience. All of us were techies, right? So we made all the platforms, everything, but now how to do sales, right? That was a bigger issue as well. But sort of then we realized that network is the big thing over here. You consider four people, four co-founders, all of them have a good network, like their parents have a good network, their parents friend might have a good network. So if you start spreading across and be open to calling up anybody and anyone, such that you get one client who is using actually your product, right? The main goal is to providing value rather than just selling up your product, right? That's where the main problem earlier was sales, right? Definitely we did not have any experience, but it started to become much more better as in when we started tapping into our systems and networks. And that's where we also sort of learned how to cold call, right? I mean, definitely if somebody is still in a network, they haven't interacted with us that much, right? Because we were still kids back then. So that was like primary big issue for us back then. I guess sales is big issue, right? I mean, if a founder cannot do a sale, cannot be involved in sales, it's a big issue for any startup. And that's what that was actually a big issue for us back then.
It's interesting how you framed that classes started and that was our biggest challenge. But do you feel like since you already have a background in like and you already know the tech stuff,
Yeah,
sorry for saying it like that, tech stuff,
no
but
worries. Yeah.
since you already know the tech stuff, do you feel like you need to study or learn the sales stuff now, or do you feel that you have uh,
See, education is just education, right? Even if we were to continue our college, we were not. I don't think so. We would ever have learned the tech skills that we had back then, right? So, tech skills is one part, right? You definitely can build a graders of the platform, but you suck at sales, so that but nobody would not use the platform, right? So, what to do of that platform if you don't have sales skills? And I guess sales is a sort of skills that you never have a course around it, right? Even though you might have a workshop, might have some cohorts who will try to help you learn sales, but it's fairly different for each sector. You need to sort of try it out, go into sales by yourselves, and then figure it out over 6 months, 8 months, whatever. Sales is just one part. Like, reaching out to people is just one part, but then comes the pricing, then comes the communication, how to follow up, how not to follow up. It's a long chain, right? But all of those things can only be learned if you get into it by yourself. And that's why founder led sales is fairly important for a startup, right? You cannot have a third party person to come in and do sales for you while you are doing nothing, right? You need to be fairly involved in sales while your team is still small. You are growing very quickly, right? You need to be involved in sales very deeply.
so you say you're four co-founders, right?
Yeah.
And how are the verticals divided?
So two of my co-founders handle tech and infrastructure now, while I handle sales and marketing. My other co-founder handles investment, security, product, like the vision of the product, and also helps me sometimes in the sales as well, sales process. That's how we are bifurcated.
Okay, okay. And in the last 3 years, what has been the most satisfying thing that you have done?
I guess onboarding the first large contract has always been the most satisfying, right? Um, so our average contract value would now be around 25 to $30,000 somewhere, but getting into that first large contract back in 2022 was a big deal for us. We had worked with a lot of startups, right? But like Series A, Series B kind of a startups, but never worked with a unicorn company or a legacy company. Back in 2022 March, we onboarded one of such companies, and that was like a most satisfying moment, right? All of our 12 months, 18-month journey that we had put ahead, all of the tech effort that we have made now is starting to be used by a company such at a large scale in a fintech, especially, right? That was a big satisfying moment. But then now it's become a continuous process wherein it's more about providing more and more value, right? I mean, now I can sort of onboard any enterprise customer, but what if I cannot provide that same value that I would provide I was able to provide to a customer back in 2022? So now all the satisfaction that we receive is on the value creation for a company, right? We need to customize some of our workflows for them, maybe products as well, right? But now value creation is anything like the most topmost priority for us.
Okay, so let's go back to the first client and customer that you onboarded. How difficult was it to convince a big, like a unicorn company, to take, to trust um, BugBase when you guys are new? I mean, they must have asked you your backgrounds, and then there is, you know, no like proper education that you can, rely back on, or sort of a thing. So, how difficult was that?
True. I guess it's difficult fairly still in the market, right? I mean, you never see a 21-year-old coming into security and selling you a security tool, right? It's a tough job for the CISO or the management also to be convinced that what if the data of them leak, gets leaked by our platform, right? All those stuff keeps on coming to their head. I do not have any formal experience in working with any corporates, nothing like that, right? So trusting comes from either education, so we really focused on educating all the customers or prospects about bug bounty is fairly new concept. Also I should say it was a fairly new concept back 2 to 3 years back. We spent a lot of time educating them. We went to a lot of events, we exhibited in a lot of events, and that's where all the companies started to understand what the bug bounty product of ours is, or what the bug bounty program is actually is. And second thing that actually helped is we were able to raise funds around $500,000 from couple of major VCs or micro VCs across the globe. And that's where also we got some kind of a validation that if uh, angels or CTOs, CXOs across the globe are trusting them and putting their money into them, why not give it a shot, right? That's where definitely at a discounted rate, but we were able to onboard those particular large customers back in 2022.
Nice. So, being a young company of 3 years with young leaders who are 21 years old, what are the key values that you feel that your company has, and how do you ensure that they are upheld, especially considering that there's a chance that people who are your employees are maybe older than you, and
Yeah.
yeah, so how do you figure that out?
I mean, the main goal for us right now is to just like work, right? I mean, you work, you learn. If you fail, you learn, you repeat. If you're good at it, you repeat, and just keep that process on, right? Value creation in terms of how my employees should work, how they should not work, sort of comes later on, right? When my team actually becomes 50 people, 100 people. Right now we are a 20 people small team. Definitely everybody, the main goal for us is to, if there's a particular task, you need to either complete it by yourself or you take somebody's help and then complete it, right? But you don't just be stuck at it for a while and just don't do anything, right? That's the worst thing a startup can do, which a corporate might do, right? You have time, ample time. You have, let's say, if you have 1 month to complete a project, in a corporate you have just 1 week or 5 days to complete that, right? So an urge to complete tasks is what we four of us definitely agree, but we try to inculcate that into all of our employees as well. It's definitely tough to do because most of the employees that we had or we have is they've come from a corporate world, not from a big startup world, right? So but yeah, we try to gel in with them. We respect their opinions, and then if we feel something is wrong, we suggest ourselves, suggest our thoughts, and that's how the workflow also happen. We definitely need to give them some kind of independence so that they can work by themselves. They know a lot of processes, but the main job in a sort of a young startup team, as a founder, I should be able to learn from their experience, right? I should learn from their past experience. Let's say somebody from marketing, they can help me understand how the SEO scores can be improved, right? What I can do on a larger scale, let's say on a SEM part, or how should I optimize my search engine, right? Or search engine results. That's just one part, right? But there are so many other verticals in marketing that I, as a 21-year-old, might not even know, right? But then somebody who has been into market, who has been working in marketing for last 5 to 6 years, they can come in and now help me, right? So my first job as a founder was to understand the processes from them and then help them, expedite those processes internally.
Since you said that a lot of the people who are your employees they come from a more structured background. They don't have startup backgrounds. So
Yep.
how do you foster innovation and creativity within them? Because I mean, of course, they're more used to following a certain set of rules, and it's different in a startup.
I guess you allow them to make mistakes, right? That's the best thing you can do. I mean, they would have come from, as you rightly mentioned, they had a fairly detailed process that they used to follow. If they have a work, they complete it, then give it to their manager. Manager gives it to somebody else, and that's how the workflow entirely happen, right? But here they have the complete independence of working by themselves, right? Because we need to complete all the tasks. I mean, everybody would have 10 to 20 tasks at a time, right? Firstly, in having that independence, that you can complete your own task at your own timeline, is great thing according to me, but also a fairly important one, right? You don't actually know which one to prioritize now, right?
Yeah.
For a startup, for a founder like me, everything is a P1, right? But let's say for an employee, they need to bifurcate things that they need to do within like next first hour. What will take them to complete, like let's say next 5 to 10 hours. They need to be great at time management, and that also only happens over the time, like let's say 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and they can definitely make some mistakes over there. That's the end goal. But yeah, I guess if you start working on it, then eventually you will be more comfortable towards it. Otherwise, you just keep on thinking about it, that okay, I was in this particular job, the environment has changed, how to start, how to not start. But the best part is you just start, you make mistakes, but you learn from them. That's also important. Just don't repeat those mistakes.
Yeah. And learning from your mistakes is also obviously very important.
Most.
Um, Yeah. So it's been 3 years of BugBase. What is the future for BugBase? What do you see yourself doing in the long term?
So right now we have a platform which sort of helps researchers to engage with the companies, right? Which is the bug bounty platform. Since the chat GPT boom or the AI boom started last year, we have been doing our own research in AI in security, right? Most of the companies right now that are building up are providing security for AI solutions, but nobody is actually utilizing the power of AI to in security, or helping companies in cybersecurity, right? So we are trying to build our automated tooling, as I mentioned, around red teaming and pen testing, using the AI. That's our research that we are working on. In fact, last month itself, our research paper got accepted in Microsoft Blue Hat conference, which is like a publication or research conference by Microsoft, but particularly for security itself. And that's where we also spoke about this journey of us building AI tool for security, which can sort of hack into systems by itself, right? In a very vague term, but it could do that. So that's the eventual goal. That's definitely one product. But as and when the company grows, we'll also realize other issues that a company or our clients would be facing in, and that's where we want to expand our business into. Primarily, the main vertical that we'll be going is anything around offensive security, is what we are looking at from now. That's our standpoint now. But we are in a startup. It keeps on changing. Never say no. That's the biggest tagline.
So, would you define Bug Bounty platform as a success?
Sure, definitely. I mean, in the US, there are platforms who have been running bug bounties for Fortune 500 companies in the US for last couple of years, right? Easily 5 to 7 years. Even federal government in the US, right? In India, still the concept is new, but it's starting to kick off. Wherein every organization, sort of in every sector, there's one organization at least who is having a bug bounty. Government is having a bug bounty program. Banks are having a bug bounty program. Fintechs, NBFCs, your D2C, D2C, B2C, all everybody, every sector sort of has one company who's having bug bounty program, right? So this creates a ripple effect, and everybody is sort of benchmarking themselves while comparing it to the other competitor as well, right? Now, if Zomato is doing something on a security level, I'm pretty sure Swiggy would want to match that level, right? Because the market is so tight, you don't want to lose out either
Yeah.
on data. Data is definitely there, but now security is more about marketing yourselves, right? Everybody is getting more aware about how security is taking place in such organizations, right? WhatsApp is running the biggest marketing campaign around end-to-end encryption, right? Probably nobody even knows what encryption is, right, or how end-to-end encryption is working. But that safety or feeling of that safety is like a big marketing thing right now, and people will sort of grow on that. And if companies are doing bug bounty program, that benchmarking will be created and a ripple effect will be seen in next couple of years.
Okay, so what is um, success for you and for your organization besides this platform? What else do you think well, success is for you?
Okay. I mean, definitely, as I mentioned, value creation is one part of the success. But as personally, I never thought that I would have a 20-member team who will be working with me to solve this particular problem, right? I mean, that's very overwhelming for me and probably for all my co-founders as well, right? Working or having that particular responsibility is a big task. While we have that growth mindset that we need to grow in other geographies as well, and I'm pretty sure when we touch that 100 employee mark or a 200 employee mark, that would be more overwhelming for us as well. But from now itself, giving out somebody a task or taking a task from them, learning from them, that entire process is very overwhelming. You actually learn a lot from it. Not just that, you actually are able to understand people in detail, right? So there's this book called Influence. It's around psychology.
Deal. Okay. Sorry,
Psychology of
I want. Yeah.
Yeah, psychology of a person, right? So uh, it gives out a lot of details, but of how a particular human or a particular person in a work environment would think, on a different environment they would think, right? All those particular scenarios. But you can only learn that while you experience that, right? I mean, I've seen people with good skill set crushing because of a timeline, right? They have that mindset of a timeline. I know that they have a skill set of completing that within a particular duration, but as soon as I give them a timeline, they start to crush, right? So as a leader, then I need to check, okay, I'll not give you a timeline, but this is a particular task that you need to complete. But then on the back end, I'm pretty sure because that particular person has that skill set of completing it within the timeline, right? So just very minor things of how you speak, how you put a pressure on somebody, how you don't put a pressure on somebody, all those things really vary person to person. I've also seen a lot of other persons who, if you don't put any pressure, they would not work. It's just that the person, how they have been working along, right? So if you're not putting a pressure on them, they'll just take it vaguely and they'll not work. It's not just that if you put a pressure, they'll feel bad or something, but it's just that they don't have that in their mindset, that if somebody is not putting a pressure on me, why should I go, right? It's as simple. So the different kind of people you will meet, and you need to actually learn about different kind of people. So that's also a fairly overwhelming task, that you learn over the years. um, but success is, I don't know, success is working with government for me right now, right? I'm working with government. That's, I guess, fairly nationalistic of me, but working with the government, getting money out of government is a big task, right? Everybody is hearing that you cannot get government to pay you, but right, we have done that. So that's a big success.
And like in India, working with the government is also a matter of prestige because a lot of us were grown up thinking we want to work with the government. Like so many people are UPSC aspirants. If you're a little bit smart, you're pushed to do UPSC, right? So like, um, it's one of those things that we've been brought up with. So I understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
Especially my father is a civil servant, right? So he's the one
Hmm.
who has given UPSC. So I always admired him that I someday maybe I'll also give a UPSC. It's just in the vibe, right? But it things changed. I started doing BugBase. I started building BugBase, and now, as you rightly mentioned, it's a fairly a prestige, to work with the particular government or the government agency. So it's a great job. Yeah.
In fact, I think your father must not be happy with the fact that you're not eligible to sit for UPSC right now. I mean, age-wise you are, but degree-wise you're not.
Correct.
Must be a shock for him.
I think he's fairly proud that I'm working with the
I'm
government.
sure. I'm sure. It's just one of those things that parents dream of for their children.
That's just very beyond. They might just be worried about I not having a degree, right? That's just the first part.
Yeah.
UPSC is the second part. I do, if I don't have a degree, that's just a worry that they have, constant worry. Probably every 3 to 4 months they'll ping me. It's time to get a degree. It's
Mm.
try something out new, something like that.
I'm finding, I'm actually, I just finished Kota Factory last night, the third
Okay,
season, and
okay.
and I don't know if you watched it, but then something happens at the end because of which, uh, I'm finding your attitude towards engineering or education and a formal degree really funny right now, because I mean I get it
I've seen the
completely.
season 2, but not season 3.
Yeah, so I mean, you'll see what happens at the end of season three.
Okay.
And then I'm like, okay, this is so different from my mindset from like last night. So I
Yeah.
was thinking about it, I slept over it, so I've actually developed thoughts over it. And now you're saying something completely on the other side. So,
I mean, I believe in practical knowledge rather than
of course,
theoretical
yeah.
knowledge. Definitely, theoretical knowledge helps in degrees like doctor, lawyer. Definitely, you require theoretical knowledge, right? You cannot go wrong over there. You cannot just be a practicing surgeon and you go ahead and practice a surgery. You actually need a theoretical knowledge over there. But I guess tech is something that you can learn with access to the internet. Now everything is fairly free. You have access to YouTube. Chat GPT is pretty big thing right now. A lot of coders are using ChatGPT heavily internally in organizations as well as
Yeah.
freelancers, right? So uh, how to learn is a skill that you need to learn, right? If you just be lazy around it, right? I mean, I've seen people going to workshops of for any tech project or something like that, and then just fail in not building a project, right? The best part to learn something is to build something, right? You might fail, that's all right, but you need to have that risk appetite and fail, right? But get started, build something, and you'll see what happens. It's fairly a magic. You cannot predict everything from the starting.
Something that you said right now was very, very profound. How to learn is a skill, which is true. A lot of people, pioneers in the past have said that you have to keep learning, you have to keep growing, you have to keep changing, and only then you keep being successful. But at the same time, do you feel doubt? How do you handle adversity?
Yeah, I mean, I feel doubt every day. It's not just once in a sort of a quarter period or something, but every day, right? I mean, because I do sort of, this comes from not having experience in a particular thing, right? If I would have worked in a corporate or any other environment for last 5 years, then I would have much better um, sort of idea of what my strategy would lead to. But if I'm doing it for the first time, definitely I have doubts about everything. So that's where risk appetite comes in, right? Me trying out a new activity or a new strategy and failing after 3 week, I am fine with that, right? But what I do is every 3 week I try to make any changes to that particular strategy, and then keep seeing it every 3 weeks, right? So 3 weeks is an ideal time for me, wherein I can evaluate a particular strategy. And the main thing is, within that 3 week you actually don't change anything, right? So we you definitely have, and especially if you are an overthinker, you'll have multiple doubts, right? So you need somebody, that comes from my co-founders as well. You need somebody who can force you to keep continuing that particular strategy. If you do it today, it might not work. Tomorrow it might not work, but after 10 days, 20 days, it might work, right? So that's where a 3 week timeline ideally works for me. If something is definitely not working for the next 21 days, I might change some portion of it and then again see it, right? And that's how gradually I remove a particular strategy. So that's my thought process over there.
So, can you share something like a failure with us that later became successful or became like a valuable lesson to you?
uh, I don't know how true this might be for any other organization, but hiring fast was a issue as well for us, right? Wherein we hired a lot of people, then eventually had to fire them because, as I mentioned, sales, from what I used to think earlier, um, sales used to be for me a very new thing, and that's why I actually hired a lot of people over there in the sales department. But eventually they were not able to convert anything, right? And that's where those were some of my failures as well. But now from what I see, because I have been into sales that much, I can actually build a team below me rather than getting someone like a head of sales or something like that who can replace anything, right? So now my thought process has changed a bit, wherein I get people to follow up with my clients. They can cold call, they can approach people on LinkedIn, they can do the lead generation for me, right? After firing those particular sales team, I've heavily focused on building a lead generation system inside me, right, wherein I know how those things work, right? And because now I'm a sales leader myself, I can build a sales team near me or below me, right? So those are few learnings, but now it can become a fairly good success. Still, I don't have anybody who is handling sales right now, but probably I'll hire somebody now, and that's where I'll get them to do a particular task rather than handling over entire task to them. And that's a, people think that hire fast fire fast. It's a definitely, the main point is, if somebody is not performing, you fire fast. Or if you want to build a culture in the team, if you want to grow the team like they should, you actually need to hire slow, right? You hire right person, and then you can see if they're performing or not, and then you can fire. But hire slow is a great thing that I will be doing from now on, especially while I'm in the small 20, 30, 40 employee people team, right? Once definitely we grow larger, we need to hire fast as well. But while we are building the core team, we need the right amount of people who can further go ahead and become leaders, not just hiring leaders now and they become stagnant.
I was reading Radhika Gupta's book as well, and
Okay.
even she, when she became a CEO, a young CEO, and she didn't know sales and marketing, and she was struggling with it. In the beginning, she had like a team assigned to it, dealing with it, and then she said, 2 years in, I took it up upon myself to do it. So I realized being a founder, it's like a hands-on job. You have to get your hands dirty and get into everything.
Correct. Founder-led sales is a big thing, especially from what I see now. Is founder is actually a brand rather than the company becoming a brand, right? In early days, especially, wherein people should know a brand because of their founder, right? That's where sales and conversions actually really help, right? Because now, uh, because if I have a social impact, com- any particular client I'm going to meet, they can understand. Okay, Kathan has a experience, or sort of speaks about security. He is building BugBase. Let's just hear about it, right? That becomes a big sales channel for me, right? So founder-led sales, building a brand around founder in early days really helps. And we might not have done that early on, but we are trying to do that now.
Okay, so how do you feel that your like leadership style has changed over the last 3 years?
Okay, so it's continuously changing till now as well, but it has changed. As I mentioned, I used to do everything by myself, right? I was that particular person. If I am handling a particular task for my company, I used to do everything by myself. I used to handhold a particular person and get them work done by my processes and by my thought processes. Eventually I've realized to delegate tasks, right? That's important. You cannot do everything by yourself, and you just you can, your mental health would get bad. That's just one thing, but eventually it also leads to your team not growing with you, right? It's just your team is there for completing tasks but not growing in their leadership itself, right? We, as a founder, you would want your early employees to sort of further become your CXOs, right? If somebody is then working for me for next 5 to 10 years, I would want them to become CTO, CIO, or any other CXO position that they can take up, right? So that growth can only come into them as well if they are not getting handled and they are learning the entire process with you rather than forcing them to learn something. So that's how the thought process has changed a lot.
And how has your approach towards taking risks in your business? How has that changed over the years?
It has increased. So increasing risk appetite is a good thing. You need to, and that comes from not becoming a overthinker, right? Earlier, as in when we start, we always see the risk is to return ratio, right? If I'm doing something, what would be the risk of that particular thing, right? And just not thinking about it in early days is a good thing a founder can do. Definitely it, comes with the time itself, that you get faith in yourself, that if you are doing a particular activity, you have higher chances of getting success rather than failure, and that's where you keep forgetting about failure, right? And sort of that becomes your path to completing a particular thing fairly well. So increasing risk appetite is also a part of your experience. You cannot have that from the day one. You only learn it across the years, across multiple months, and that has actually changed in me. I used to uh, just not do anything because I used to feel that I'll fail in this, right? um, so we used to skip all those strategies because we used to feel that this might lead to failure. But eventually this has changed, wherein now the process is to fail, probably, right? Just for example, and you actually are not worried about failures rather than trying out new things.
So, besides having a large risk taking appetite, what are the other skills do you feel entrepreneurs today need in this growing environment, this fast paced world? What do you think are the other critical skills that entrepreneurs today need?
You need gut, right? You need, like, in Hindi, you need to be besharam, right? You should be up for anything. If somebody pushes you to meet a particular client, you just go ahead, meet them, talk to them, do anything, right? If you need to close a particular sales target, call, meet people, do everything, do whatever you need to do, but complete that particular task, right? You need to be besharam. You need to have that risk, you need to have that gut feeling that, okay, if I'm doing it, I should go into that fully, right? That's the primary reason we also dropped out. uh, I mean, if we could have continued side by side, I've seen a lot of other founders as well who might be in their second, third year. They continue doing their studies and then probably drop out after that, or continue the startup after that. But if I am getting into something, and investors are also ready to put in money in me, why should I continue my studies and increase the chances of the money getting failed, right? I mean, if somebody is putting money into you, right, at that early stage, they are not putting in money into the particular organization or a particular tech. They are putting money into the founder and how well they can actually take the particular company ahead, right? So that's where you drop out, you start working on a particular company, and then see how things go, right? But you need to have that gut feeling, and you need to be patient. That's, I guess, two major things that I have also learned. You need to
So,
trust your
okay. So, what other advice would you give somebody who is trying to start their own business
uh,
besides trusting your gut and being besharam?
definitely. You need to actually go into depth. If you're especially in building in India, there are multiple schemes that you can avail, right? You just sometimes people are just lost, right? They might not even know what is happening, what are governments providing to build a startup, all of those schemes, right? You need to be educated about your field first, right? If you're building a startup, you need to be educated how to build a startup in India. You need to avail most of the benefits. There are multiple incubators, communities who would also give you benefits of using, like, their partners. Just for example, any newsletter sending, email campaign sending, platform or something like that. Yeah, you can get credits using AWS as well. Your cloud providers will give you credits for next 5-10 years, because they also want you to be hooked on their platform as well. That's definitely there. But you are getting free credits at the start, right? Even though you might have $1 million in your bank account, you still need to have that mindset of not spending, right? You need to use all the schemes provided by government or by any other organization. That's one thing. Then you need to identify the right set of people who can actually help you, right? And a lot of people on the top, CXOs, founders, other leaders in the organizations as well, they are sort of ready to help, but people approach them on a wrong way, right? If you tell them, okay, sir, I've built this particular tool or a product, please buy it, right? That might not be the correct way of approaching a particular CXO at a larger organization, you need to take the feedbacks. You need to ask them, sir, how can you help us, right? All those things, and get them to be a mentor to you rather than a client to you first, right? In early days, you need to identify those 10, 20, 30 people who can advise you, who can mentor you, and who can also spread a word for you as well. They could be your parents, they could be your probably future clients, and anybody, any person, right, across the world. That identifying that 10, 20, 30 pool is also important. uh, Third is, believing in your co-founders as well. That's also important. If you have a co-founder, just trust them. You don't need to, a lot of time it happens that ego also comes in play. That's where you need to ensure that roles are bifurcated. Somebody or your co-founders are allowed to, if not allowed, definitely that's not the correct word, but they should be taking their own decisions, and you can give your own thought processes around it, or your reasons around it, but you need to allow them to give it a shot, right? That's where again risk appetite comes in. You need to allow them to try it out, the particular strategy, and see how it goes, and then probably amend it, change it, and then see how it goes ahead.
So, thank you for this. I wanted to ask you one last question, and it comes from something you just answered. You said something about finding the right people, finding the right tribe, and then you also said finding the right advisors. So, what can you tell us? Is there a mentor or a book or an event that significantly influenced your journey to being the founder of BugBase today?
Yeah, so the multiple good books, starting from influence, as I mentioned, right? You need to understand people around you. Then a good book that includes, will implicate reasoning into you is Start with Why, right? You need to have why or reasoning around whatever you are doing. That also that is a good book. Marketing, or getting your product into marketing, is also a good part. So there's this book called 22 Laws of Marketing, if I'm getting it correct. So again, that is also a good book, wherein it will give you case studies of companies who have marketed themselves in different geographies and how you should do it as well. Right? You can definitely take inspiration from all of that. In terms of mentorships, a lot of them, right? And I sort of, the first mentor in the industry itself was our first early check that we received was from 100x VC, right? And Sanjay Mehta was definitely is a pioneer angel investor, but also gave a lot of inputs on our strategies, on our tech products, and those feedbacks, those mentorship were valuable. In fact, he was the one who actually pushed us to network with people in an event, right? Earlier what we used to feel is, have a booth, you are exhibiting, people will come in, and then whatever the number of leads you get are sort of your prospects. But to increase that, you need to be, again, as I said, Besharam, he only taught me that you need to go to those particular people who are just standing right there. They might be talking in some random groups as well, right? And those things happen in an event. You need to introduce yourself, speak with them, get a connection, and be good at networking, right? So and definitely it's, if you have four co-founders, you four of us go to separate places. Don't go to the same place and network with one person, right? You increase your networking capabilities. I guess that was one of the best things I learned from him as well.
That's great. I mean, I'm assuming you enter a party and four of you take four different corners and work your way backwards to the center and then meet at the end of the night.
Correct. No, it's pretty simple. We have a Slack channel called Sales. Right? Whenever we network with somebody, we take their LinkedIn, we put that into our Slack channel, and then next day we'll drop in text. Everybody will network. If we have emails, if we have business cards, that's the best case. We drop in the email itself. Now people will become lazy, and might not send emails the next day itself. So we have tools for that. We just have a email campaign, and probably the same night itself we'll work till 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock after the event, and then we'll send out emails the very same night. So that's the process now.
Okay, so I was just going to say that so you can't party at a networking event, but then I realized you're not legal to party, so it's okay. Uh,
That's true, but I mean, it's all right. You can actually, I mean, networking events, are dinner parties, right? You are having dinners, you are having chit chats, and you are sort of enjoying as well.
Okay. So, Kathan, it's been great talking to you. I had a wonderful time. I hope you did as well. Thank you so much for joining us at Makers Bar.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time, so Harvey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.